Norfolk County, to be exact. I moved to Texas directly from Liberia, and then I relocated to Minnesota after graduating college in Texas. And I moved here in 2007. I've been here ever since then. I am a proud parent. I am also a proud husband, and I'm also a public school teacher.
Okay. You teach what school district do you teach, sir?
Yes, sir. I teach in Brooklyn Center School District, District 286.
Okay. Um, and of course, this broadcast is not only about your community relationship, but you are also vying for the one of those city council seats within the city of Brooklyn Center, and you have been a resident in that city for how long, sir?
Well, I think for about 4 years now, but I was in Brooklyn Park. You know, Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center.
They're almost the same. Yeah, the reason
Right.
the reason I ask is because I'm pretty sure you've done your own due diligence to know exactly some of the things that are missing within the city. It's a great city. Brooklyn Center is. It's an extremely great city. You have lots of businesses in that city, and we do have a number of new businesses that are coming up, including even the all popular golf course that is there now. I think, and you can see that the city itself is taking a new shape, and you cannot be running at a better time than now. So tell us a little bit. What are some of your plan actually for that city?
So, let me tell you first why I'm running, and then that way you know
Yes,
the
yes,
plans I have
exactly.
or
Thank
why I
you.
have the plans. Um, so I've always believed that I saw something at the U.S. Embassy when I was coming to America that is helped inform what I do.
The United States
There were
Embassy in Liberia,
the
correct?
U.S. in Liberia.
Okay.
There were
Go.
people ahead of me that got denied U.S. visa. There were people behind me that got denied U.S. visa.
Mm.
I got granted U.S. visa, not because of anything I had done to deserve that. I don't think I was holier than anybody else. I think God, or whatever you believe in, posterity and fate, has designed this as a blessing to me so that I be able to be a blessing back to my people. And so when I came to the United States, I went to Texas Tech University. I double major mathematics and electrical engineering. So I got double bachelor's. So while in Texas, I saw something with my little sister. We had just relocated from Liberia, and she was in third grade in Liberia. But when we got here, because of her age, she got put in eighth grade.
Hmm.
And so that huge gap, people started to diagnose her with learning disabilities, and they wanted to put her on pills because every time she went there after school program, where we were still teaching the eighth grade material, she wasn't getting it. There was no system put in place to help her bridge the gap. And so for the first few years while I was in the U.S., my dad and I had run a home school for my sister.
Hmm.
So every time she came from school, she had to come to school at home. So my dad bought the curriculum for third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and we kept teaching her. So right now, fast forward, she has a master's degree in nursing.
Wow.
So we know that that was not a learning disability. And so when I moved to Minnesota after graduating college, I was working in corporate America. And I started to tutor one kid, and then two kids, and then three kids. And so I had to see the same gap that I saw with my sister. Except this time it was not just Liberian kids. It was also African American kids who were poor kids, poor white kids, and everybody. And so I started to complain. And so one day, my friend said, dude, why you always complain about everything? If you think you can fix it, go ahead and fix it. And so I took that as a challenge. I enrolled at Augsburg University, at the time Augsburg College. Got my licensure to teach mathematics, left corporate America, and got into schools. So my first job was in Maple Grove Middle. Very good school, affluent district, but I didn't see the fit. And so I was looking for somewhere that I could go, that I can give back to the least fortunate, so to speak. And so when I left Maple Grove, I had a job opening in Brooklyn Center. I was like, well, this is my place. Because in Brooklyn Center, we get to deal with students that are about 85 to 89% free and reduced lunch. It's a minority school district.
Disadvantaged families.
Thank you. And that's the lens I understand. Because my mom, I always tell the story, dropped out of middle school because she got pregnant. She had two choices: have an abortion and continue school, or keep me and sacrifice her education. She chose to keep me and sacrifice her education.
Great choice.
And so she had 8 kids, including me, right? And people would laugh at us in our community. And they always put their hands at her, and our kids were not going to be anybody. And so I understand that when I teach kids that come from this kind of background, where people think you can't be anybody, to tell them my life story, so that my story becomes a testimony to them, giving them impetus to try to kind of flip the middle of our society, so to speak. And so that's the reason I end up in the classroom. Now, why am I running? It's the exact same thing. I see a city that has immense potential that is not being tapped. I see people that are almost invisible for our city government. Right? Brooklyn Center sits on a unique crossroad to trailblaze, to set example for other cities to follow. We're not good, don't get me wrong, but we can do better. So the reasons I'm running down, I got just 4 basic platforms. I run it because of jobs. I think Brooklyn Center as a city can do better to attract more jobs to our city. Now, let me tell you something. As a teacher, when I call a parent and say your child is in trouble, or I need to see you, you need to come to parent-teachers conferences, and that parent works 2-3 cities outside of our Brooklyn Center, they have to decide whether they have enough PTO to take off work to come and see me. And what that means, if you don't have PTO, is you kind of opting for a pay cut, so to speak, to come and see your child's teacher. And sometimes the parents are placing a tough decision. They won't come. They'd rather make their money and try to help their kid. If a parent works in Brooklyn Center, it will be a lot easier to take your lunch break and come and see your child's teacher and go back. So I'm running to make sure that we're bringing businesses back to the city, that we attract more to the city that will pay livable wage, not minimum wage. I'm talking livable wage. Because I think one job should be enough to sustain a family. The other thing I'm running for is housing. I teach kids who come to my algebra class, my pre-calculus class, and my calculus class. I am trying to tell these kids and convince them that the American dream is possible. But they don't even have that to sleep on because they're homeless. You cannot dream if you don't have a bed to sleep on. And so these kids come to me, some of them are sleepy, some of them are tired, because we are not doing a good job in the city of having enough respectable, affordable housing. Right? And so I'm running because of that. I think also the city has been overly taxing property taxes. We have a lot of people in our city who live on fixed income. As we tax these people over and over, chances are we're going to tax them out of their own homes. So we have to be a little bit creative in expanding this bucket of income to attract businesses that will come and do right by our people and do right by our city. Okay? So the other thing is just community. You and I grew up in Africa, where community is the biggest thing. It takes a village to raise a child. COVID-19 epidemic right now is teaching us that we need community. We need humanity. And so community for me means, that the city is picking up the slack where the school districts in. Because if we don't build the relationship between city government and school districts, then we create this gray area, this vacuum where nobody is responsible for and where most of our kids fall through the slack. And so we need community. Last but not least is climate justice. Okay, I cannot tell my kids to come to school and do all of the math homework and do all of the science homework when we don't have a future for them, when we are not doing right to preserve this earth for our kids. And so those are the four basic major things I'm running on. But all of those, I come to all of those basic things out of what I see in my classroom. Because I see kids that when they leave my room, like right now we're doing online teaching, I have less control over trying to help them whenever the Lord calls for me. And so I see when kids come to me hungry, I see when kids come to me and their parents have to work 2 jobs. I see when kids come to me and they are homeless or their parents are homeless. I see when kids come to me worried about the future of this planet. And so those are the reasons I'm running.
Well, it seems as though you have sufficient desire or reasons to run. And exactly that was where I was trying to head to, because most of us just want to dip our hands in the political bowl out of ego. But clearly you have you were impacted from growth. So there's nothing more desirous of seeing changes occurring in your lifetime like what you experienced in the past. To see that, that younger generation or later generation don't face those same disadvantage. In spite of that, you still made it, because the challenges in Africa, they're completely different from probably what we may encounter in this land of opportunity. So it's just a matter of someone holding someone's hand here, but the resources are available. And I want to thank you for your own service to humanity, because most people go in these kinds of endeavors just to enrich themselves, but clearly yours is a gift to humanity. And thank you for that. But Brooklyn Center has probably the school district, and you've talked about disadvantaged families coming to school. But what are some of the economic opportunities? It could be like businesses coming, relocating to your city to help, the competition, so that disadvantaged families can at least be able to have, other choices other than, monopoly, say for instance. And most of these cities are highly restricted when it comes to business endeavors. So if you were to look at businesses other than, school, what else would you be looking at within your own small district? Is there a particular district you're running in?
Well, no. So I'm not running a particular district. The city has at-large races, so you have to run in the entire city.
Oh.
But before I answer that question, let me set something up. Brooklyn Center as a city has 4 school districts and then some charter schools that serve the city. So OCO 279 picks up in the city.
Oh, really?
So when they have their levy, they also tax citizens of Brooklyn Center. Robbinsdale School District also picks up in the city. And so when they have their levy, they also tax Brooklyn Center. Anoka NDP also picks up in the city. And so when they have their levy, they also tax
goodness.
And Brooklyn Center School District picks up in the city. And so when we have a levy, so you understand where I'm going, right?
Yeah.
These people are taxed enough already
to the limit. Oh my goodness, yes.
And so this is about the time that we become innovative and start to look at what other cities there are, because this is not unique to Brooklyn Center. So I'm an educator. And you're an educator too. And what we always look at is best practices.
Yeah.
What is happening somewhere? What has happened somewhere? What have other people done differently to be able to fix these same situations that we find ourselves in? And so one of the biggest questions I always ask myself is, if right now, if it weren't for COVID-19, if I want to have a date night with my wife, I have to go to Brooklyn. I have to go to Maple Grove. If I wanted to go to the movie theater right now, I have to go to Maple Grove. That's the closest city, or I have to go to Coon Rapids. So just basic things like that. I have a lot of students who I teach 12th grade. Their first jobs are outside of Brooklyn Center. We have to do better. We have to be able to attract businesses, however that is. We have to look at what did Maple Grove do to attract so much businesses. And I'm not saying we do what it did step by step, but we can look at what it did, and we can modify that to fit us and fit our values and fit our morals in Brooklyn Center. Look at what other smaller cities have done. But let me tell you something. This is Minnesota, the home of Target. The one Target we had in our city left. So Brooklyn Center does not even have a Target in the home of Target. So this is something where we have to sit down. We have to be very deliberate. We have to be analytical and have to think about it. We have to look at other places what they have done. How can we do the same thing and ensure that we attract businesses that will do right by our citizens and that will also pay them livable wages and that will also be able to profit. Look, let me tell you, right now, COVID-19 has highlighted the wealth gap in our community. It's also highlighted the opportunity gap. My school district, for example, we've been struggling to go online because not all of our students had access to computer. And we weren't able to give one-to-one parity like St. Paul, can afford, like other school districts will afford. And so when we put up levies, most times they get defeated. Not because these residents don't want to help the school district, but because every school district that picks up in there is always going back to them, it's always taxing them. We don't want to tax grandma out of our home. Sometimes grandma just want to retire and spend the rest of her life in her home instead of going to a nursing home.
Right.
But we can't continue to increase taxes where these people that are on fixed income will have to choose between either paying for their medication, prescription medication, or paying taxes. We can't do that. We have to be innovative. That's the reason I'm running, because as a teacher, there's one thing we know how to do.
All right.
Is we know how to sit back and critically think.
I agree with you. Mr. Goya, the one would say the city of Brooklyn Center in general, it's not as probably big as Maple Grove is. Brooklyn Center is probably much older than Maple Grove. One can argue, out of ignorance maybe, but rightful so. There are so many new subdivisions opening up in Maple Grove. So either Brooklyn Center is as big, but rather because of taxation, people, when these new businesses and these new subdivisions open up, it's additional taxes to the taxpayer. Probably that's why it's not stretching the way it's supposed to stretch like other cities. Because a sister city closer by, Brooklyn Park, is somehow progressive, almost like Brooklyn, almost like Maple Grove. I mean, not that they're on a par, but at least they're not lagging behind too much like Brooklyn Center. So, what would you be doing differently that you think predecessors before you were not able to do to bring Brooklyn Center at par, at least with adjacent cities like New Hope, Plymouth, Brooklyn, Park or Maple Grove? What are you going to be doing differently?
So one of the things we've learned in education recently is that student voices in making decisions impacts the growth of a school. All we've been doing, you and I, we old school teachers, we come into the classroom and say, these are the rules of the classroom.
Right.
We don't care whether the students like you or not, those are the rules. And quite often, I tell you, the kids don't buy into it.
Nope.
If they don't buy into it, they don't, most of them don't feel the need to adhere to it.
Okay.
So what my school district and other school districts have been doing lately is to involve students' voices into curriculum, into how do we deal with student
everything,
and everything,
even school feeding, everything.
There you go. And so when we have those critical voices, it is no longer just the idea of the older folks, like us old people, saying this is what the kids should eat, this is what the kids should learn, and this is what school discipline should be, right? And so we're involving the younger generation. We are expanding the tent of critical thinking. It is the same idea I hope to bring. It's the same idea I hope to bring to city government.
Okay.
Look, let's involve people in decision making. Let's not just limit the decision-making process to a select few. So here's one thing I hope to bring to city government. People-centered decision. If we're going to make decisions about anybody, we need to make sure they are at the table, that they are speaking for themselves and not spoken about. So here is how that changes. City council have meetings in the evening. I get that. But when we start holding hearings at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekday, and that's the only time we can hold them, then what we're saying to a section of our population is that we don't want you in this room.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is we are keeping away some critical voices. We are keeping away some real rigorous thinkers. So if we open it up instead of, we can still do 3 o'clock on a weekday, but we can also do on a weekend. It's making sure that city government and city decision making is available and open so that in our city, no citizen should be invisible. Whether you own a house or you rent or you're homeless, city government should be open for you and your input. Look, most people, when you hear I'm going to City Hall, there's a select group of people that go to City Hall to City Council meeting. Some people just feel threatened by just the power in City Hall. So maybe sometimes having city meetings outside of City Hall, going to people's comfort zone and making them feel comfortable to come out and engage in the government. That would be the way to move forward. Because you never know. And there one person who's afraid to come to City Council or who feels so threatened because of the power of City Hall might just be open and willing to engage you and give them one idea that we are lacking in a City Council meeting. So if you ask me what do I intend to bring differently, is to create and bring about a city government that involves everybody. People-centered decision making.
What about taxation? Since this has been discovered to be one of the major reasons why people don't even like to hear about city governments anymore, because they feel it's all about taxing them their dollars, and our lives in this country would never be the same after the end of this coronavirus. Either people will be they would have run all their savings, or some people would not even have any way of replenishing, their future retirement coffers and so on. And that too many things would be affected. People would have lost, loved ones and so on. So that memory will be there. And this is not the time to go talk to them about government because they are mourning the loss. Too many things will evolve. We evolve after this. Now, my question is, why do you think the city government should be thinking about asking people to come to a meeting when in fact this will be one of the most acrimonious times in the history of our nation, the United States, and for our city in particular. This is the most disinterested time where people even may not want to listen to anybody telling them to come to city government. Matter of fact, some folks are even saying that there should be no elections this year, and people like yourself who will bring differences on the table will be denied the ability to even exercise in your own franchise, your ability to protect. So what is the impetus that you use to bring people to the table and people say, I'm not interested in government anymore? What would you be doing to bring them, to the table?
So Remy, I have a simple answer for that. For why should people be interested in government post COVID-19?
Yes.
It's what we do right now. What we do right now will determine whether people be still interested in our democracy, in our system of government tomorrow. The government has to step up today. You have to show people today that you actually care and you work for them to be able to buy in to come up tomorrow. Look, humanity has always been tested from time to time.
All right.
We should not allow COVID-19 to take away our humanity, to take away our values, to take away our morals. It is in times of crisis when we are most called upon to stand up. And so state government has to stand up now. I agree with you. We can't call anybody to come to meetings right now. Matter of fact, and violate CDC guidelines anyway. But I'm talking about future. So right now, what is state government doing to help people who are shut in? What is state government doing to help grandma and grandpa who right now can't have people visit them? What are we doing? Because what we do right now determines if tomorrow grandma wants to pay taxes to the city or not. This is when we have to be a community. This is when we have to truly be a village. So let me tell you something. Like for example, what I'm doing. I formed partnership with a few people. One of the groups that we formed is called LRB COVID-19 Response, right? Mm-hmm. And this is where they came out of. SIP and other food places, they're giving us food. But most times our people, they want the food, they want the powder, and sometimes those ethnic food are not available at a SIP. So what we did, me in collaboration.
Oh, they're not available. Hold on a second. They're not available at SIP. Is that like a community outreach program?
Right. So SIP is like it's a food shelf.
Okay.
Right? So they give food out, right? And so what some of us decided to do in the community is to spend our own money to start it, but we bought things like gari, and bought things like pamata, and package a care package. And what we've been targeting are older folks who cannot drive. Because we're telling them to stay at home, right?
Yes.
Stay at home.
Yes.
They have to eat. And they want to eat stuff that is culturally relevant to their life. And so today, every Thursday, we've been dropping out those foods. Today, we drop off about 20 boxes of those foods to 20 elderly people. We went out driving. That is what we can do now. So that tomorrow, post-COVID-19, grandma that we've been feeling, that single mom that we've been helping, they say, wow, state government was really available.
Yes.
Broken Center City Council actually has been giving money out. The mayor, thanks for him, gave $10,000 to SIP, gave $10,000 to two other community food banks. Food banks that cater to minority or immigrants population, right? So that they can buy food that is relevant to their community. That's a big way for us to step up.
Right.
Here's another thing we're going to be doing. In collaboration with OLM and the council, we are starting a tutorial program where I and other teachers will be available on weekdays on Zoom to teach our students while they're at home, to teach our parents and their students together. So that's one thing City Government can do. So for me, I'm focused on right now because whatever I do right now, whatever City does right now, determines whether people will be interested in us tomorrow. So we have to show people that the taxes they've been paying all along, the time they've been given to the city all along, the time they put into work, this is the time to pay them back.
Right. Right. Good. Good. Our city government maybe is one of the least attractive, so to speak. But the cities actually is responsible for heavy lifting. A lot of things get transferred even from the state to the city. But majority of the time, people tend not to understand the role of the city. And the thing that is additional watchdog, you have the federal, you have state, then you have the state, then you turn around, you have a local.
You got county.
Yeah, you got county. then they come against the city. So for the average person, it's like too much government. But no amount of government is too much because then it's additional layer to even leverage the average person's opportunities within the community. But I want to move a little bit to the role of the city when it comes to limiting other city from levying taxes. Because normally the reason why people hate government so much is because of taxation. And one thing you cannot do without in this country where we live is taxation. In as much as you love your God, the next thing will be taxes. So that you cannot do it. But what can you do as a city, to limit other city coming, levying taxes, on the average citizen? Is there hope inside to say that will reduce someday in the future?
Well, I don't think cities have authority to tax other cities. I think it's the county that can come down with that taxes. But within the city limits, the city government has control over some taxation. One of the things I see is that I don't think majority of our people dislike taxation. I think it's the idea that they dislike the lack of transparency. They dislike the fact that sometimes they don't think they see where their money is going, and that decisions that are being made about how their money is used does not include them, does not involve them, does not ask them for their input. Now, if I'm giving money and I see stuff popping up, but I don't know was the last time I was asked about my input, I will be circumspect. I will also be suspicious. I will also not want to be given money.
Right.
But I think people give money to pay their taxes. Right? Yeah, there will be some people who don't like it. But I think the majority of the folks are just worried that sometimes there is an inherent lack of transparency. And so they're going to bother them. So take, for example, I as a teacher, I get about $280 in tax waiver.
Oh yeah.
Right? For the resources I buy for my classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you one thing. I use that $280 on the first day. I spend more money than that on stuff for my classroom.
Oh, of course.
I spend more than $500-600 on buying school lunch for kids who can afford.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are all in this together. I know police officers and other people who work for far less because they feel the calling and they still pay their taxes. And they stay with the legal resources they have left. They go out to help the community. And so I don't think it's about people not wanting to give money to benefit us all. I think they see the lack of transparency, and that's what bothers them. If you are actually involving people in decision making and you actually are transparent about telling them how money is being spent, and money is being spent on the things that are critical, on helping our community improve and helping raise the least fortunate in our community and helping to ensure that nobody feels invisible in our city, and ensuring that there are not people who have more access to city government and other people have less access. I think when you do that, when you open city governments up to people, when you ensure that people have the power to talk to the city government, to talk to their leaders, I think you'll find that a lot of people will willingly pay their taxes. A lot of people will even give more because they understand where the money is going and they have a buy-in.
You know, transparency is a matter of interest. A lot of times, the information is out there, and people are not mincing with the information and the way how city spends money. The city spends money is something, a matter of public information. By virtue of their own well-being, their own existence, they have to be able to be transparent. So, if you ask me, I would say, well, I'm just not interested in the information, but the information is there. Is there a particular way you want some of this information packaged to people in more simplified form, as opposed to, because you mentioned earlier that people can even afford a laptop, and that comes with not only the laptop, now you think about the internet and so on and so forth. So do we have some of the journals like newspaper or community dailies that go out in leaflet form that people can just grab and say, well, this is where my tax dollar is going? Do we have those simplified way of disseminating information?
Not that I know of, unless you go to City Hall. But here's the thing, what I'm talking about. Cities have to run budgets, right?
Yes.
When the budget is being put together, who's at the table? You see, that's one of the problems right there. See, let's have people stand up budgeting. Let's have people come and give their input. I'm not saying everybody's going to vote on it, but let's hear from them. The other thing is, look, the way city communicates with its citizens have to change. We have to be able to look at the people we serve, and we have to be able to adapt to engage the people based on the people we serve. So you go on city website, there are budgets and other things, but how many of us actually get our information that way? I'm going to Brooklyn Center, that CR or whatever that is. You and I here, how many times have you spent on Brooklyn Park website, City of Brooklyn Park website? Right? So we have to be careful. Yeah, we can have that over there. There's certain segments of our community that will get their information there. I'm not saying take it from online. I'm not saying stop the things you're doing. I'm just saying add the things you're doing. You and I, for example, I get a lot of my information and interactions at the barbershop. Put a leaflet at the barbershop. Let people know when you're having city council meeting, when you're having budget meeting, when you're having all these meetings, right? At the beauty salon, at the churches, at the mosque, wherever your community congregates. Don't just keep that to the website, because if you're only keeping it on the website, then you're keeping a swath of your citizens from coming. You're keeping them from interacting. That means you're keeping away a vast level of ingenuity from the process. And so whatever we come up with is not the best we got. It's the best of the few people that know the process, that come to the process. We have to ensure that whatever we put out there, if budgets are truly moral documents, now whose morals are they representing? We don't have a vast majority of our community at the table when these budgets are being crafted. I do believe budgets are moral documents, but it should not just be my morals. This should not just be the morals of 4 city council people and a city mayor. This should be the moral of the vast majority of the city. Let's give people the chance to interact with the city government and talk about where their money is going, how their money is being raised. Because then, and only then, when we bring out the finished product, we can say, yes, this is the best BC Brooklyn Center has to offer. Because it is the best of the brains of the majority of the residents of Brooklyn Center, not just a minute few.
Well, of course, that's why we have Mr. Civic Goya running, because he comes with a wealth of experience in just practical experience. Sometimes people are still bogged down with the the old way of doing things. Sometimes it takes someone who has interacted at the lower level. There's nobody that understands community relationship like a teacher, a classroom teacher, because he meets and deals with everybody from all strata of the society. So it's a blessing to have you, of course, coming through at this time. There could be no better time than now for Civic. But when we look at the shutdown of things, practically the entire nation is paralyzed. It's at a standstill. Do you see any way forward that elections will be held in November this year?
So I have competing knowledge going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing, as a mathematician, looking at the models of and looking at the growth factor, and looking at when we're going to peak, when is this virus going to peak in infection, and when are we going to flatten, bend the curve, and start to come down. I am not as optimistic, but the true optimist in me, the believer in me, the religious me, that believes in the higher power, that knows that my God, that got me on these shows, that got me through wars in Liberia, that got me through Ebola, can get us through this. And so that side of me is saying, yes. Yeah, like my pastor used to say, I see through the eyes of faith. I sit right here and I see through the eyes of faith. I see that this too shall pass away. Post-corona will be a thing very soon. But the one thing I'm worried about is, who are we going to be post-corona? Are we going to lose our values? Are we going to allow this crisis to make us lose our values and lose our humanity? Are we because we're going to be a changed people. The whole world is going to be changed post-corona. Are we going to be changed for the best, or are we going to be changed for the worst? And all of that can be determined by right now. See, I'm a mathematician. I'm looking at this like a function. Our input right now determines what the output is going to be. Whether it's city government, whether it's my own school, right? Making myself available every day on Zoom for my students, interacting with them. I didn't sign up to teach online school, but coronavirus made me, I have to repurpose. So GM's repurpose this plant to produce
respirator, respirators,
right?
Yeah.
I have to repurpose as a teacher to now teach online, because I believe that our collective future is inherent in our future leaders. And we have to continue to ignite their minds and continue to teach them. And so we're doing it. So we all have to ensure, and we all owe it to our kids and to posterity to ensure that what we do now guarantees that tomorrow will be better than today. That whatever we come out, whatever is going to show up after COVID-19 will be way better than what was before COVID-19. I believe in that because I'm seeing that power in people.
Mr. Goya, we are going to go on break. And when we come back, we're going to be looking at the diversity of the diversification of the city of Brooklyn Center. Whether that diversification is represented in local government. And we're going to be looking at other public service institutions like the fire service, the police. To what extent are some of these diversifications represented within those services of our city? When we come back, but let's take a short break and listen to some cultural music. I love the cultural music. It reminds me of home away from home. Sorry about this. Oh, just a second here. All right.
You took me back, man. You took me back. Let's forget the way you're
Well, that's the importance of the our cultural song. Kind of they take us back, and we have our culture is rich. Whether it's Beaufort County, whether it's Nimba County, whether it's even Basso, even Grangida, wherever it is, we all have our own cultural affinity, and of course that's why some of us love to remind ourselves that regardless where we wake up, we cannot forget our culture. It's important to us. But that brings us to diversification. Brooklyn Center it's not the Brooklyn Center 10 years ago. A lot of folks have relocated in that city, and one can say it's more becoming diversified in terms of color of the skin, cultural representation, and so on and so forth. Can we say the city is matching the representation of the people that live there? People that are they reflected? Those representations, are they reflected within our city government or public service institutions like the police? I have yet to see that many folks that look like me in the police force there, because there was a Liberian guy that I remember. I could be making a mistake, but I know I haven't kept with the city, so all fairness to the city, maybe I'll be now we have a mayor that look like me. Actually, he has a background like you and I, and so yes, there's a semblance of cultural representation, diversification, but can we make that case and say, yes, the city is becoming more and more diverse?
Well, I think the city is on its way there, but I think the process can be accelerated. I think it can be sped up. The city is on its way there, like you rightfully reflected, Mayor Elliott. But we also have women of color on the city council,
right.
April Graves and Makita Butler. So even the city manager also is a minority. So we are on our way there gradually. Now the police folks does need some more work. We do need some recruiting in there. But Brooklyn Center, like almost every city in this nation is working towards getting there. Look, diversity can never be a bad thing. You were just playing music from my side of Liberia. And I was smiling because it's in my traditional language,
right,
my dialect.
right.
It was Loma.
Mm-hmm.
And I was smiling because it spoke to me. Before we moved to our new location where we temporarily are housed as the school district, my classroom, if you ever came in my classroom, you will see the big Norfolk County flag on the wall. All of my students knew where I was from.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am a proud Lofian, I'm a proud Liberian, I'm a proud African, I am a proud American Liberian.
Mm-hmm.
I have those qualities. And so my students know that. And so we all learn and experience one another's culture. And it's made me better as a teacher, and I want to believe it's made them better as students. And so city can benefit from that. Brooklyn Center right now is a majority minority city. So we need to ensure that their richness, that diversity brings, that the city benefits from it. There is something about my culture that I am so eager to teach somebody who is not from my culture. And there is something from the other cultures that I really so much want to experience. Because I think it makes me better as a person. That interaction makes me better. So we have to ensure that our city is using its most revered resource, which is our diversity, which is our people, which is highlighting that cultural diversity and showing that our people benefit from it, ensuring that when you enter Brooklyn Center, city limit, it should not matter what culture you're from, what background you're from. You should see yourself already reflected in the city. Mm-hmm. Whether it's in its accent path, whether it's in the city government, whatever. The city has to try, and I can't knock them for that, because quite recently they've been having some meetings about that, about how to diversify and beautify the city that ensures that I will feel at home, you will feel at home, our Caucasian brothers and sisters, our Hmong brothers and sisters, and Asians and Native Americans, and everybody, and African American, can see themselves, can see the culture, can feel welcome the minute you enter the city limits of Brooklyn Center. So do we have the point right now where we can say, yes, we have arrived at the apex of diversity? No. But is the city making a march? Yeah, a gradual march that should be accelerated.
We're almost to the end of this, cast. But I think running for a seat on the city council, it's almost like a collective effort. We've seen other minority communities lending, assistance to, their own when they're running. We're not trying to, as much as we're trying to preach diversity, we should always try to think diversely, but sometimes it takes someone that looks like you to be in that corridor to be able to create that opportunity, an inclusive opportunity. Now, you are running. We know there are challenges that come with it. What would you be counting on from your own, say, community, the Liberian community, people who, not necessarily Liberian African community, but people who are in the column? What would you be counting on them to make this a success? Because by yourself alone, I don't think it's enough to get you to city council. I think you need collective effort. So what are you looking at in terms of bringing people on board? Because I know you've been reaching out a lot. People have been seeing you in the community. You've been packaging your messages and so on and so forth. But is that enough?
So let me speak to the larger issue, and then I come down to my community. Mm-hmm. The reason I'm running for the city council has very little to do with my Liberianness or my blackness.
I agree.
It has a lot to do with the fact that I think that I have to learn in the lived experience. All right, not just the one I got in the classroom, but I've lived it.
Yeah.
To be able to bring practical ideas, practical solutions to my students that I see in my classroom, to their parents, to their grandparents, to my city as a whole. I think I come with a plethora of experiences and ideas as a critical thinker and as an educator to be able to help my city move on and help everybody. Now, would it be a good thing for somebody to see somebody who looks like them is in government? Absolutely. We're humans, right? We can't deny that. But I want people to first understand that I believe that I have the requisite qualification and quality and temperament and experience to be able to uplift my city for all of us. So that when that tide comes, when I come as that tide, that leadership tide, so that all boats will be lifted by him. You see, I'm a nerd at heart. Newton's law of inertia said a particle at rest or a particle in motion will remain at rest or will remain in motion unless acted upon by an external force. So city government has been at rest or in motion, however way you call it, but it is time that an external force act upon it so that it changes course, so that it changes trajectory, or so that it is sped up and accelerated more, so that all of us can benefit from it. Now, to my LRB people, look, elections are very important. Elections are consequential. I don't have to tell you about it. We see that all around us. Everybody that can vote needs to make sure that their votes, that they are heard, and that their votes count. So what I need from people in Brooklyn Center is first thing, make sure that you fill up the census forms. We need to count you, because that's how money comes to the city to help you out and to the county. But also make sure that you are registered to vote if you are a citizen. Give to my campaign. We need money. Elections are not cheap. If you go to ccgoya.com, that's my website, you can give to us. But we also understand that there's a lot of people in our community that aren't able to give. So to those people, your prayers are welcome. Making their phone call, telling people about our campaign, volunteer on our campaign to help make phone calls, sharing our videos, sharing our messages. Because I don't think this is about me. This can never be about me. I am just being the messenger. Because I feel like God has blessed me. He has put me in the place where He put me in the classroom in Brooklyn Center to have that life, so that I can be a blessing to everybody. So that together, as humanity, we can all float. Our boats can all float. When this tide of change comes through, when this tide that I'm bringing that is based heavily on people governance, on people being at the center of government, so that when we come up with policies that affect you, you know that you were at the table at the formulation stages. So that you are at the table, if we're going to be doing anything that affects you, that we get your voice, we hear your voice, so that we make decisions that take you into account.
So that website, your website again is www.
It's www.czgoya, so my full name, .com, and let me spell that out. It's SIZIGOYAH.com.
Good.
And if you go on my Facebook page also, and so just like our page also, it's easy to have for Brooklyn Center. So like our page, and you see everything we're doing. Give to the campaign. Please volunteer. We need a lot of volunteers. We need a lot of people on the campaign. We need this to be a people's campaign, because this is not about me. It's not about any one person. It is about the city that we all loved. Those people will be in Brooklyn Center forever. those people who are new to Brooklyn Center, we all love Brooklyn Center. We have to ensure that this city works for grandma and grandpa who are on fixed income, also works for mom and dad who makes a lot of money, work for auntie and uncle who don't make that much money, work for the single mom who has to work 2 jobs just to be able to keep the roof over her kids' head. That it works for mom and dad, or mom and kids are homeless, that it works for everybody, that nobody feels invisible in their own city. That the city sees everybody, whether you own homes, whether you rent, or whether you're homeless, or whether you're just couching right now at your neighbor's house or at your family's house. We have to make sure this city works for everybody, because Brooklyn Center is uniquely placed to feel bliss. We are BC. We've always done better. We must always do better.
You know, now it's not the time to do community outreach because, you know, people are keeping by themselves. And so it makes even the process of campaigning more difficult for you. While we about to wrap the show, what are some of the ways people can volunteer their service, you know, in keeping with state mandate of, you know, social distancing? What are some of the practical ways? Say if I want to come, beside going onto your website, what do I need to do?
Well, money is the biggest thing because
Right.
we're going to run a lot of ads on Facebook and other platforms. But you're right. You know, we can't have people going out door knocking right now like we usually need, right? But we're going to need people to do phone banking for us, right? Where they can call people on the phone. So we need volunteers in that light, right? You're also helping right now immensely, right? On this step, right? And people just sharing the video. Out there, everybody out there. You don't have to be like a renowned Conor Gray to call me, right?
Yeah.
You can have your own Facebook Live and invite me. I'm willing to come on and have a one-on-one conversation. We will be hosting some of Facebook Live and a Zoom stuff to interact with people. But don't ever feel like you have to be a renowned talk show host for me to appear on your talk show.
No.
Everybody out there, if you hear the message and you love the message, share the message, reach out to me, and just tell me, hey man, it's easy. I'm doing this live, and you show up. I will show up. Especially now that I am stuck at home, right? We will come on, we will spread the message because this is a people-centered message. And Gray, I want to be very thankful to you, man. I appreciate, you would not know how much this means what you're doing right here. But, you know, I like to say that I hope God rewards you because this is a platform that is helping me share what I think and what I believe about our city and our people.
Thank you so much. You know, thanks for coming. And you know, I always I'm available whenever, you know, you're a fellow teacher. I'm a fellow teacher. So even aside from that, you know, you've always been responsive to community initiative. So I felt even when you were running for a local organization, I was there because of you. So I'd go, because I like to see progressive people who have the passion to work without even thinking about money in the first place. Most of our people today, when they talk about community initiative, they say, what's in there for me? But you, irrespective of that, you put that aside. The first thing is, what can I contribute to move the process forward? That's the kind of observation I have about you, and that's why I reach out to you and say, hey, anytime, anything you want me to do, I'll be able to do it. I may not come with a bunch of money in the bag, but, you know, everything counts. And so
Yes.
Thank you so much. And, you know, I'll give you the last final 30 seconds to just, you know, chime in, and then we can end this broadcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my brother. Look, I am grateful to be an American citizen. I am grateful to have come from Liberia. Liberia is always going to run in me. I came to this country, and this country took a bet on me. When I was not even a U.S. citizen, I was given access to student loans to go to school without any guarantee that after I graduate, I was going to stay. Because I would have gone back to Liberia, right? And I wasn't going to pay back their money. But this government, this country, and its taxpayers took a risk and believed in me and gave me money to go to school, whether it was a loan or a grant, to learn something. And so I've always owed that to this nation. I owe that to the United States to give back. That's the reason even though I could make money as an engineer, I'm working as a teacher in one of the poorest school districts, giving back to this country that took a chance on me. I'm just asking you again, America, Brooklyn Center, to take another chance on me, afford me an opportunity to continue to serve you. Because you took a chance on me when you didn't have any guarantee that I was going to stay and pay you back. November is coming around, but before we get to November, COVID-19 is here. Please stay safe. Please continue to maintain social distancing. Look, to all of our healthcare workers out there, in my book, you're superheroes. Those of us that are not healthcare workers, you can still be a hero. Stay at home, save a life, be a hero. Vote CC Goya in November. Please reach out to us. We need all of your prayers. We need your money. We need your outreach. I appreciate you, my brother.
Thank you so much. And of course, that was the voice of Caesar Goya. He's running for, Brooklyn Center, one of the council seats. There are array of seats on city council, and he's vying just for one of them, and he needs your vote. And we're elated to have him on board tonight. Mr. Goya, thank you so much, and stay safe. Always remember, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Thank you, sir.